Hello, my darlings, and welcome back to Radio Wasteland. Tonight's guests are Kara and I. This is one of those experimental shows that probably just shouldn't be done. What Kara and I are going to do is we're going to discuss the state of the world today, this world of
We're going to swerve wildly out of our lane.
To be fair, I'm going to answer any one of the questions that you answer as well. You know, I'm not.
Yeah, okay. That sounds good.
But, okay, so first off, Kara, what political box would you put yourself into?
I'd call myself a socialist.
You'd call yourself a straight-up socialist?
Yes, I would. But worth noting, like, I'm sort of sitting here standing in for the youngins today. That's not where the youngins today are. I'm considerably to the left of that. I would say in people who are my age and who are also LGBT, there's a very good chance that they are straight up socialists like I am. But people who are not LGBT but who are my age probably do not think the way I do on a lot of the stuff we're going to be talking about.
All right, so just to make it clear to the audience, are you a capitalist?
No.
You're completely a socialist. There is no capitalism.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of social democrats call themselves socialists, but that's not where I'd put myself. Although, honestly, like social democracy, what's practiced in Finland, Denmark, et cetera, that's a form of capitalism. It's basically just heavily regulated capitalism. Now, personally, I don't think that is too bad. But I still wouldn't call myself a social democrat. I would call myself a socialist because I would prefer a system that had, no private property whatsoever.
So what's the difference between a socialist and a communist?
Branding.
Just branding. So you're a Democrat.
I'm basically... Communist. Yeah, well, yeah, I mean,
you believe in democracy.
Yes, I do. The democratic is a key point there, and I probably should have brought that up. Like, I'm not a fan of totalitarian states, whether they're left-wing, right-wing, whatever. I think totalitarianism is bad.
Just to break apart the word, and this irritates me a lot of the time when people talk about communists, they're all, commie this, commie that. There has never been a large country on this planet that was an actual communism. China, Russia, these countries are not communisms.
Yeah. I feel like it's a little more complicated, though, because Vietnam right now, I would say, is about as socialist as you can be while still existing in a global capitalist economy. Like, they export stuff, they trade, because literally have to, but they're basically a socialist country, and I think are a decent example of what a socialist country is or should look like.
Then why don't you get out of our country and just go to Vietnam already?
Well, because I don't speak the language, and because it's much poorer. Like, ideally, I would like to live in a country that is as rich as the U.S., but is also socialist. Like, there's no question their standard of living is lower on a lot of things because, no surprise, they're a much poorer country than we are. And I don't think they're a poorer country because they're socialist. I think they were a poorer country because they were colonized for hundreds of years and then torn by war for many more years. And,
sure. Yeah.
And right now they're doing about as well as they can for their size and the fact that capitalist countries don't particularly like them.
Yeah, so my answer to this is a tough one. I'm not sure what box to put myself in. Do you have any idea what box I should put me in? What would you consider me?
Well, I guess I don't really know. When I describe socialism, I just say basically I want the same world we live in right now. I just want every corporation replaced with a co-op, basically, and a couple other things. Like, I don't think landlords should exist. I think.
Now, is that co-op run by the government in a socialist fashion, or is that
not necessarily? In some conceptions of socialism, it is. Personally, I don't particularly like that. I'm more of a market socialist.
So there is some level of free market going on.
Yeah, I think the free market is good. I think you can have the free market in a socialist economy. I just think, if you work for a company, you should get some ownership of it. I think the way companies are run today, which arguably has a lot more effect on us than the way the government is run, is, not democratic at all. It's not democratic by design. And no one expects companies to be democratic, but I think they should be. Because I think, you can get fired for saying something on social media about your company. They have huge control over your lives. They have huge control over the world, over the resources, over the environment. So I think they should be democratically run, just like everything else that is at all significant to our planet or to anything at all.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was, before Trump got elected, I really felt that the world was, our world, the United States, was just about in line and ready for both sides to agree that corporations were the problem.
Yeah.
Because even, on the left, I understand why corporations are a problem. I mean,
Sure.
it makes perfect sense on the left. Corporations are a problem because they lobby the government. They control things with money. Money is all power, and they basically exploit people.
Well, I think the right has a problem with that, too.
On the right, corporations should have a big problem with people on the right because of free market, because of monopolies and basically keeping the little guy out. Everything, I think we've discussed this on here, everything has big in front of it now. You can't start any sort of business, larger business, without massive regulations that are stopping you from starting a business. There's not regulations on how you get to do and what you get to do. There's regulations on you just getting started in the first place.
Well, so do you think that every corporation should be a co-op?
No, I'm actually not opposed to it depends on what big business is considered. I'm opposed to massive conglomerates, but I mean a big business.
So you would be in favor of limiting the size of companies, but not changing their overall structure. Is that fair to say?
I'm a big fan of enforcing antitrust and monopoly laws. Absolutely.
Right. Okay. Well, then, so I wouldn't call you a socialist.
No, I'm definitely not.
You believe in private, private property.
Well, I am a private business owner, and I do hope to own land. One of my dreams in life is to dig a hole and know that I own that nothing.
Yeah. Well, private property, I don't have a problem. In socialist theory, which is not the way people use the actual words, there's a distinguishment between private property and personal property. Basically, personal property is what you're using, right? If you have a toothbrush, if it's in your house, if you live in a house, you own the house, you own the toothbrush, you own everything in it. But if, for instance, you own this house and you own another house that you're charging rent on, in a system with no private property, you can't own that. You can't own anything you're not using, basically. So, which I think is a good idea. Although, obviously, you can see how it would become nebulous at the edges. You can see how there would be lots of, exceptions and stuff. And this is just the theory. Obviously, it gets much more complex when you get
Yeah. I mean, I could easily sit here and poke holes in it, and you would go, well, I'm not sure how we would figure that out. But frankly, I could do that with the current government we're running. And,
right.
So, I'm just running conceptually. I'm not running argument.
Right. But so, yeah, those are sort of the key tenets of socialism. And it sounds like that's not really where you are. That sounds like you're more keep stuff the same, just don't be so darn corrupt about it. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. Well, I think a better world starts with not being so darn corrupt about it. Right. I think everything else will fall into place with education and with morality and stuff like that. And I don't mean Jesus morality or religious morality. I mean morality of citizenship, that my neighbor is next to me, my neighbor is the second best guardian of my home, and I need to be aware of that. My neighbor needs to be aware of that. And regardless of what kind of food they cook or what they look like, we need to realize that our neighbor and I are obviously not all that different. We live in the same kind of home, in the same town, work in the same kinds of jobs, in the same world. Sure, maybe there might be religious and spice differences, but outside of that, there really aren't that many differences.
Welcome to the radio Wasteland. Welcome to the radio.